The sky turned purple that evening, just as Jack Hayes finished his shift at the NASA Deep Space Monitoring Station. He was tired, ready to head home after 12 hours of staring at screens that showed nothing unusual. Then it happened, a signal unlike anything recorded before. "Hey, come look at this," Jack called to his colleague Lisa Rodriguez, who was packing up her belongings. Lisa hurried over, pushing her glasses up her nose. "What am I looking at?" "I don't know. It started 30 seconds ago, and it's not matching any of our known patterns." The signal pulsed in perfect intervals, too regular to be natural cosmic noise. Jack and Lisa watched in silence as the pattern repeated, then changed slightly, then repeated again. "This is deliberate," Lisa whispered. "Someone is sending this." Jack nodded, his heart racing. Someone or something. Within an hour, the small monitoring station became the center of global attention. Scientists from every department crowded around the screens, watching as the signal continued. Government officials arrived by helicopter. The president was briefed. 3 days later, Lisa cracked the code. The signal contained mathematical sequences that built upon each other, creating a language primer similar to ones humans had designed to communicate with potential alien life. It was a message meant to be understood. "They're telling us how to talk to them," Lisa explained to the gathered officials. "And they're saying they want to meet us." The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, a group of 17 different species who had formed an alliance thousands of years ago. Their message was clear. They had been watching Earth for centuries and decided the time had come for formal contact. Jack sat in on the emergency United Nations meeting, still struggling to believe he had been the one to receive the first contact. World leaders argued about how to respond, who should represent humanity, and what this meant for Earth's future. "Do we even know what they want?" asked the French president. "Their message says they wish to welcome us to the galactic community," replied Lisa, who had been appointed head of the translation team. "They've sent coordinates for a meeting place, orbit around Saturn. They'll arrive in 2 weeks." The preparation was frantic. Earth's best minds gathered to create a response message and organize a mission to Saturn. NASA rushed to prepare their newest spacecraft, working day and night to ensure it could make the journey. Jack was surprised when he received orders to join the mission. "Me? Why?" "You received the first message," explained General Paul Barnes. "They specifically requested you by the identification in your monitoring signature." 2 weeks later, Jack found himself aboard the hastily prepared spacecraft alongside Lisa and a team of scientists, military personnel, and diplomats. "I never thought I'd go to space," Jack said as Earth grew smaller behind them. "None of us thought we'd be meeting aliens," Lisa replied with a nervous smile. When they reached Saturn, they waited anxiously, scanning the darkness of space. For hours, nothing happened. Then, suddenly, space itself seemed to bend. A massive ship appeared, seemingly from nowhere. "It's beautiful," whispered Lisa as they got their first look at the alien vessel. Unlike the metallic constructions of human imagination, this ship seemed to be made of crystalline materials that shifted colors like an aurora. A transmission came through, translated by the system Lisa had developed. "Greetings, people of Earth. I am Ambassador Xorlak of the Galactic Council. We have watched your species with great interest. You are special among the stars, though you may not yet understand why. We look forward to our meeting." As the alien ship moved closer, Jack realized that everything humanity knew was about to change forever. Earth was no longer alone, and based on the ambassador's words, they were apparently not just another species in the cosmos. They were special, though for what reason, they had yet to discover. The aliens welcomed the human delegation aboard their ship with a ceremony that felt both strange and somehow familiar. Ambassador Xorlak stood nearly 7 feet tall, with iridescent skin that shifted colors as they spoke. Their 4 eyes blinked in alternating patterns, and their voice came through the translation devices with a musical quality. "We have many tests prepared," Xorlak explained, as they led the humans through corridors that seemed to be made of living material. All new species must be assessed before full integration into the galactic community. Commander Ryan Miller, the military representative chosen to speak for Earth, nodded politely but felt a wave of unease. What kind of tests? Nothing to fear, Sorlak assured him. We will measure your technological understanding, your biological adaptability, and your cognitive processes. Over the next week, the human delegation underwent a series of evaluations. They solved puzzles, answered questions about Earth's history, demonstrated human technology, and provided biological samples. Jack and Lisa worked alongside the others, often catching the aliens exchanging glances when they thought the humans weren't looking. During a break between tests, Ryan approached Jack. Have you noticed how they react when we do something unexpected? Jack nodded, like when Pete told that joke yesterday and the alien scientists nearly jumped out of their seats. Exactly. I think they're surprised by us, but I can't figure out why. On the 8th day, Ambassador Sorlak gathered the humans in a circular chamber. The walls displayed moving images of Earth, cities, forests, oceans, and people going about their daily lives. We have completed our assessment, Sorlak announced. Humanity has been classified as a Category 3 species. What does that mean? Lisa asked. It means you show promise but remain limited in your development. Your technology is rudimentary compared to Council standards. Your societal structures are still evolving. You have potential, but it will take centuries before you reach Category 2. Ryan noticed the condescension in Sorlak's tone and struggled to maintain his diplomatic composure. With respect, Ambassador, I think there's more to humanity than what your tests have shown. Sorlak's skin shifted to a deep blue. The assessment is thorough and fair. We have evaluated thousands of species over millions of years. Meanwhile, in another section of the ship, Dr. Patricia Wilson had been invited to observe the aliens' analysis of human neural patterns. As the only neurologist in the delegation, she had been separated from the others to provide specialized insight. Your brain activity is unusual, commented the alien scientist, whose name translated roughly to Zenith. Most species show consistent patterns when solving problems. Patricia studied the scans on the screen. What's different about ours? Humans appear to use multiple processing paths simultaneously, Zenith explained. You engage logical reasoning alongside intuitive leaps. This is rare. Patricia smiled. We call it thinking outside the box. Humans often solve problems through intuition or creative connections rather than pure logic. Zenith's head tilted. A gesture Patricia had learned indicated confusion. This is inefficient. Maybe, Patricia replied, but it lets us find solutions others might miss. Later that evening, when the delegation gathered to discuss the day's events, Patricia shared what she had learned. I think they've underestimated us. Their tests are designed to measure logical progression and technological development, but they don't account for creativity or intuitive problem-solving. Ryan nodded thoughtfully. Category 3, huh? Well, I got the feeling they're in for some surprises. Jack looked out the viewport at the stars. They said we're special, but they don't seem to think very highly of us. Maybe they don't know why we're special yet, Lisa suggested. Maybe we don't either. Little did they know, the opportunity to demonstrate humanity's true capabilities would come sooner than any of them expected. The alarm sounded without warning. The humans had been aboard the alien vessel for 2 weeks when the shrill noise filled every corridor. Ambassador Sorlak, usually composed and formal, rushed into the chamber where the human delegation was gathered. We have received an emergency transmission, Sorlak announced, their skin pulsing with red waves. The Dravik have attacked the Centauri outpost. Jack and Lisa exchanged confused glances. Who are the Dravik? Jack asked. A hostile species from the neighboring galaxy, Sorlak explained quickly. They have been in conflict with the Council for generations. This is the first time they have struck this deep into our territory. The humans were ushered to the ship's command center, a vast circular room filled with alien technology. Screens showed what appeared to be a space battle around a distant planet. Strange ships darted between larger vessels, causing explosions wherever they went. Our defenses are failing, a council officer reported. The Dravik are using a new attack method. Our systems cannot track their movements. Ambassador Xorlak turned to the human delegation with what seemed to be reluctance. Perhaps you would observe and offer any insights. Sometimes a new perspective can be valuable. Chief Engineer Samantha Flores stepped forward. She had been quiet during much of their stay, carefully studying the alien technology whenever permitted. Now she stared intently at the battle displays. "Your defense systems are too predictable," she said after several minutes. "They're following mathematical algorithms that the Dravik seem to have figured out." The aliens looked at her with surprise. "Our systems use the most advanced prediction models in the galaxy," one of them stated. "That's the problem," Samantha replied. "They're too perfect, too logical. The Dravik are introducing random elements that your systems can't adapt to." She pointed to the screens. "Look at how they change direction without any apparent reason. They're being deliberately unpredictable." Ryan nodded in agreement. "On Earth, we have a saying. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Your ships are just reacting. They need to introduce some chaos of their own." The council officials looked skeptical, but as another of their defense stations exploded on the screen, Ambassador Xorlak made a decision. "What do you suggest?" they asked. Samantha didn't hesitate. "Let me access your communication systems. I'll show you." After a brief discussion, the aliens reluctantly granted her limited access to their defense network. Samantha worked quickly, her fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls as Lisa helped translate the alien symbols. "What are you doing?" Ryan asked as he watched over her shoulder. "Using old Earth military tactics," Samantha explained without looking up. "These aliens have been using advanced technology for so long they've forgotten basic principles of warfare. I'm introducing random pattern shifts in their defensive grid." On the screens, the council ships began to move differently, breaking formation and repositioning in ways that seemed chaotic but had purpose behind them. The Dravik attackers, previously darting through the defenses with ease, began to collide with unexpected obstacles or find themselves suddenly surrounded. "It's working," Jack whispered as they watched the tide of battle slowly turn. When the Dravik finally retreated an hour later, the command center fell silent. The alien officials stared at Samantha with their multiple eyes, expressions unreadable. "How did you know to do this?" Ambassador Xorlak finally asked. "Your technology is centuries behind ours." Samantha shrugged. "Sometimes simpler is better. You were using advanced algorithms, but war isn't just about mathematics. It's about psychology, unpredictability, instinct. Humans understand it because we've been fighting each other since before we had technology." For the first time, the humans saw what might have been respect in the aliens' eyes. Ambassador Xorlak's skin shifted to a deep purple. "Perhaps," they said slowly, "our assessment of humanity was incomplete." The Dravik attack had changed everything. Ambassador Xorlak invited the human delegation to join the Council's emergency strategy meetings, an honor previously unthinkable for a Category 3 species. The humans sat around a large circular table with representatives from 12 different alien species, all discussing the growing Dravik threat. Captain Daniel Wright, the quiet astronaut who had previously been content to observe, found himself drawn to the holographic displays showing Dravik movements across several star systems. As the aliens debated complex defensive algorithms, Daniel noticed something in the enemy patterns that seemed oddly familiar. "May I?" he asked, gesturing toward the main display. Ambassador Xorlak nodded, and Daniel stepped forward. He manipulated the controls to show the Dravik fleet movements over time. "Look at how they move," Daniel said, pointing to the patterns. "They're not using random tactics or even advanced military strategy. This looks like predatory behavior." The aliens stared at him blankly. "On Earth, we have animals called wolves that hunt in packs," Daniel explained. "They separate weaker prey from the herd, surround it, and take it down together. The Dravik are doing the same thing with your outposts." He pointed to another section of the display. "And here, see how they retreat when confronted by superior forces, only to return from a different direction. That's like how lions will back off temporarily, but circle around when hunting large prey." The council members exchanged looks of surprise. One alien with translucent skin that revealed pulsing internal organs spoke up. "How could you possibly know their intentions from these movements? Our behavioral analysts have found no recognizable patterns." Daniel smiled slightly. "I used to watch nature documentaries as a kid. My father was a wildlife biologist. These patterns are basic predator behaviors that evolved on Earth over millions of years. I'd bet something similar happened where the Dravik come from." For the next few hours, Daniel worked with the Council's strategic team, explaining Earth predator behaviors and how they might apply to the Dravik. He predicted their next targets based not on mathematical probabilities, but on instinctive hunting patterns. "If I'm right," Daniel concluded, "they'll strike here next." He highlighted a small mining colony on the edge of Council space. It's isolated, resource-rich, and lightly defended. Perfect prey. Ambassador Thorlak looked troubled. "That colony is not strategically important. Our models predict they will target the Rigel shipyards." "Let's find out who's right," Ryan suggested. "We could set up defenses at both locations." 3 days later, the Dravik attacked exactly where Daniel had predicted. The Council forces, prepared and waiting, repelled them with minimal losses. When the news reached the command center, the aliens turned to Daniel with new respect in their eyes. Ambassador Xorlak's skin rippled with blues and greens that the humans had learned indicated deep thought. "How did you know?" one council member asked. "I didn't know for certain," Daniel admitted. "I just recognized patterns that reminded me of Earth's predators. Humans are connected to our evolutionary past in ways that your species may not be. We still carry instincts from when we were both predator and prey." Lisa stepped forward. "Your species have been technologically advanced for so long that you may have lost touch with the more primitive aspects of existence. Humans still have one foot in our natural past. We understand hunting, survival, and fighting on a gut level." "Fascinating," Ambassador Xorlak said. "We have always admired humanity's resilience and creativity, but we assumed these were despite your primitive nature, not because of it." Jack noticed an alien communication officer signaling urgently to Xorlak. The ambassador received the message, their color draining to a pale blue. "The Dravik have changed tactics," they announced gravely. "They've launched a direct assault on the Council homeworld. All their previous attacks were merely diversions." Ryan looked at Daniel. "What would predators do next?" Daniel's expression grew serious. "If they're following predatory patterns, this isn't just an attack. It's going for the kill." The journey to the Council homeworld took 3 days, even with the alien ship's advanced propulsion systems. The humans spent the time studying Dravik attack patterns and preparing strategies. They had earned the aliens' respect, but now faced their greatest challenge. When they arrived, the battle was already raging. The homeworld, a beautiful blue-green planet with 3 moons, was surrounded by thousands of ships. Council defense vessels arranged in perfect geometric formations fired at the chaotic swarm of Dravik attackers, who seemed to flow around the orderly defenses like water around rocks. "Their formations are too predictable," Major Elizabeth Carter observed as they watched from the command center. Previously a fighter pilot on Earth, Elizabeth had stayed in the background until now. "The Dravik know exactly where the Council ships will be." Ambassador Thorlak turned to her. "Our battle formations are based on 5,000 years of successful warfare strategy. They maximize firing efficiency and defensive coverage." "And they're failing," Elizabeth replied bluntly, pointing to the displays showing Council ships being destroyed one after another. "You're fighting chaos with order, and chaos is winning." The command center fell silent as everyone, human and alien alike, stared at the unfolding disaster. The Dravik ships moved in seemingly random patterns, yet somehow coordinated their attacks perfectly. Council vessels, despite their superior technology, couldn't track the unpredictable movements. Elizabeth stepped forward. "Let me try something different. Give me control of one defense sector." After a brief discussion among the council leaders, Ambassador Thorlak nodded. "Sector 7 is yours. What do you intend?" Elizabeth took her position at the control interface. With Lisa's help translating, she began inputting new commands. "What are you doing?" Ryan asked as he watched over her shoulder. "Fighting fire with fire," Elizabeth answered, her eyes never leaving the display. Sometimes the best way to counter chaos is with controlled chaos. On the screens, the council ships in Sector 7 began breaking their perfect formations. They moved in unpredictable patterns, seemingly at random, yet maintained a loose coordination. "This makes no tactical sense," one of the alien commanders protested. "You've reduced their firing efficiency by 30%. "Just watch," Elizabeth said confidently. The Dravik ships approaching Sector 7 suddenly hesitated. Their fluid movements became uncertain as they encountered defenses that didn't follow expected patterns. When they attempted to push through, the council ships shifted again, creating new unpredictable patterns. "They can't predict what they don't understand," Elizabeth explained. "Dravik's strategy relies on exploiting the logical patterns in your defenses. Take away those patterns, and they don't know how to respond." Within 20 minutes, the Dravik attack on Sector 7 had stalled completely. Some enemy ships even collided with each other as they tried to navigate the seemingly chaotic movements of the Council defenders. Ambassador Xorlek's skin flashed with bright colors. "Implement these tactics across all sectors immediately." As the new strategy spread across the battlefield, the momentum shifted. Council ships abandoned their perfect formations for controlled disorder. The Dravik, faced with unpredictability they couldn't counter, began to retreat. 2 hours later, the battle was over. The Council homeworld remained safe, though many ships had been lost. In the command center, the alien leaders gathered around Elizabeth with newfound respect. "How did you know this would work?" Ambassador Xorlak asked. Elizabeth shrugged. "In aerial combat on Earth, we learned that unpredictability is sometimes more valuable than efficiency. A pilot who does the unexpected often wins against superior forces. But our simulations never showed this," an alien commander said, confusion evident in their multiple eyes. "That's because your simulations are based on logic," Ryan explained. "Humans understand that sometimes you need to abandon logic to win." Ambassador Xorlak was silent for a long moment. Then they turned to face the entire human delegation. "We have underestimated your species," they admitted. "We judged you by your technology, not by your thinking. This was a grave error." Jack stepped forward. "So what happens now?" "Now," Xorlak replied, "we must reconsider everything we thought we knew about humanity, and perhaps what we thought we knew about ourselves." The Council called an emergency meeting in their grand chamber. All 17 species were represented, with the human delegation invited to sit at the main table, an unprecedented honor for a newly contacted civilization. The vast room hummed with multiple languages as the various aliens discussed what had happened during the battle. Ambassador Xorlak stood at the center of the chamber, their skin shifting through thoughtful shades of blue and purple. "Fellow council members," they began, "we face a crisis unlike any in our history. The Dravik threat continues, and our traditional methods have proven ineffective. Yet these humans—" Xorlak gestured toward the Earth delegation. "Have shown us new ways to think about our challenges." The Supreme Elder of the Council, an ancient being with crystalline features, leaned forward. "How could a species with such primitive technology offer solutions our greatest minds could not discover?" Professor Alan Mitchell, who had remained quiet until now, stood up. Though not a military or political leader, Alan taught literature at a small college on Earth and had been included in the delegation to represent human culture. "If I may," he said gently, "I believe I understand what's happening here. The council members turned their attention to him, many looking skeptical. "The issue isn't about technology," Alan explained. "It's about creativity. Humans have been solving impossible problems through imagination for our entire history." He pulled a small book from his pocket, one of the few personal items he had brought from Earth. "This is a mystery novel by Agatha Christie. In human culture, we create puzzles and problems specifically for the pleasure of solving them. We write fiction, invented stories, to explore ideas that don't exist in reality." The aliens looked confused. One with tentacle-like appendages asked, "You deliberately create problems that don't exist. For what purpose?" "For fun," Alan replied with a smile. "For mental exercise, to explore possibilities. Humans love to imagine what-if scenarios and solve them creatively." He opened the book. "In this story, a murder is committed in a way that seems impossible. The joy comes from figuring out how it could have happened." Millions of humans read such books, trying to solve the puzzle before the answer is revealed. Ambassador Xorlak took the book, turning it over in their hands with curiosity. "And this practice helps you solve real problems." "Absolutely," Alan nodded. "It trains our minds to think beyond the obvious, to consider impossible solutions." When Captain Wright recognized predatory patterns in Dravik movements, or when Major Carter implemented chaotic defense patterns, they were drawing on uniquely human experiences. The Supreme Elder's crystalline features sparkled with interest. "Can you teach this creativity to other species?" Alan hesitated. "It's not something easily taught. It comes from our evolution, our diverse planet, our fractured societies. Humans had to become creative to survive. We faced countless disasters, wars, and challenges that forced us to adapt in unusual ways." The humans shared examples of human creativity: children's games that developed strategic thinking, music that expressed emotions through sound, art that captured imagination, and stories that explored impossible worlds. Jack described how ancient humans used stories around campfires to pass knowledge and solve problems. Lisa explained how Earth scientists often made breakthroughs through unexpected connections between unrelated fields. Ryan talked about military strategies developed from games. As they spoke, the aliens passed the mystery novel around, each examining it with growing fascination. "I believe we have discovered humanity's special quality," Ambassador Xorlak finally announced. "It is not your technology or your biology that makes you unique in the galaxy. It is your creativity, your ability to imagine solutions that have never existed before." The Supreme Elder nodded slowly. "In our pursuit of advancement, perhaps we have lost something valuable: the ability to think beyond established patterns." Alan smiled gently. "The most powerful thing humans possess isn't in our technology. It's in our stories, our art, our music, our ability to create new ideas from nothing." Sorlak's skin shifted to a bright, hopeful yellow. "Then perhaps, Professor Mitchell, you would be willing to share more of these stories with us. The Dravik threat remains, and we need every advantage." "Of course," Alan replied, reaching into his bag and pulling out more books. "We have thousands of years of human imagination to explore." The Council moved quickly to implement human thinking into their strategies. Over the next few days, the humans worked closely with alien scientists and military leaders, sharing ideas from Earth that seemed totally unrelated to space warfare, but proved surprisingly effective. Dr. Nicole Adams, a music teacher who had been included in the delegation to represent human arts, found herself in high demand. The aliens were particularly interested in how human music combined structure with improvisation. In jazz, Nicole explained to a group of alien communication specialists, "Musicians follow a basic framework but constantly improvise within it. They respond to each other in real time, creating something new with each performance." The aliens watched recordings of jazz performances with fascination. One communication officer, a tall being with 4 arms and silver eyes, made the connection. "Our communication protocols are too rigid," they realized. The Dravik intercept and decode them because they follow predictable patterns. But if we use something like this jazz improvisation, within hours, they had developed a new communication system based on jazz principles. Messages followed basic patterns, but included variations that only made sense if you understood the underlying theme. To the Dravik, it appeared as random noise. To the council forces who understood the melody, the messages were perfectly clear. Meanwhile, engineer Frank Phillips worked with alien technicians on defense systems. Frank had been surprised to be included in the delegation. His background was in simple mechanical engineering, not advanced technology. Now that background proved invaluable. Let's think about children's playground games, Frank suggested when asked how to reorganize fleet movements. Games like tag or hide and seek teach basic strategies in unpredictable environments. The aliens were confused until Frank demonstrated with simple models. Soon, council ships were moving in patterns inspired by childhood games from Earth, unpredictable to outsiders, but following comprehensible rules for insiders. In another section of the council headquarters, Ryan and Samantha worked with weapons specialists. They introduced concepts from Earth sports, showing how offensive and defensive strategies from basketball or football could be adapted for space combat. The key is misdirection, Ryan explained. Make the opponent think you're doing one thing while actually doing another. Even Jack and Lisa found their skills in demand. They helped develop training programs that encouraged alien crew members to think more flexibly, using puzzles and challenges from Earth to break established patterns. When the Dravik launched their next attack 3 days later, they encountered an entirely different council defense. Communications they had previously intercepted were now indecipherable. Fleet movements they had predicted were now chaotic and unpredictable. Weapons fired in patterns that seemed random but were devastatingly effective. The Dravik forces, faced with strategies they couldn't understand or predict, quickly retreated. Council ships followed, using pursuit tactics based on predator behavior that Daniel had explained. In the command center, the Supreme Elder watched with growing amazement as the battle unfolded. "It is remarkable," they said to Ambassador Sorlak. "These human concepts are so simple, yet we never considered them. Perhaps that is why they are effective." Sorlak replied, "The Dravik, like us, expect advanced technology and complex algorithms. They cannot comprehend these simple, intuitive approaches." As the weeks passed, the Council continued to incorporate human thinking into every aspect of their operations. Alan's collection of books became the most sought-after resource on the station, with aliens studying human stories for insights into creative problem-solving. Dr. Nicol Adams organized concerts where alien musicians attempted to learn improvisation. Frank Phillips taught alien engineers to build simple mechanical devices without relying on advanced technology. Elizabeth Carter trained pilots to fly by intuition rather than programmed responses. The Dravik, who had seemed unstoppable, now faced an enemy they couldn't predict or understand. Their attacks became less frequent and less effective. For the first time in generations, the Council gained the upper hand in the conflict. "It is not that humans are smarter than us," Ambassador Sorlak explained to the Council Assembly. "It is that they think differently, and in this difference, we have found our greatest strength." The Dravik conflict ended not with a dramatic final battle, but with a gradual retreat. After months of failed attacks against the new unpredictable Council defenses, the Dravik sent a communication requesting peace talks. It was unprecedented. The aggressive species had never before sought diplomatic solutions. Ambassador Sorlak invited the human delegation to attend the historic meeting. The council chamber was decorated for the occasion, with representatives from all 17 member species present. The Dravik representatives, tall, angular beings with rough gray skin, entered cautiously, their eyes darting around the room. "We do not understand what has changed," the Dravik leader stated bluntly. "Your tactics have become incomprehensible." Ambassador Sorlak glanced at the humans before responding. "We have learned new ways of thinking." The peace negotiations lasted 3 days. The humans observed mostly in silence, but their influence was evident in the Council's approach, flexible, creative, and sometimes deliberately unpredictable. The Dravik, accustomed to rigid diplomatic protocols, seemed constantly off balance. When the agreement was finally signed, establishing borders and non-aggression protocols, the Supreme Elder of the Council called for a special ceremony. "Today, we not only celebrate peace," they announced, "but also a new understanding of what makes species truly advanced." The Elder turned to face the human delegation. "Humanity has been reclassified. You are now the only species designated as Category 1 Special." A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Such a designation had never been granted before. "We thought we knew what made species special," the Elder continued. "We measured advancement by technology, by how far a civilization had spread among the stars, by the efficiency of their social structures. We were wrong." Ambassador Xorlak stepped forward, their skin glowing with warm, golden tones. "I have been authorized to travel to Earth as the Council's permanent representative. If humanity will accept us, we wish to establish formal relations with your world." Ryan, as the official delegation leader, stood to respond. "Earth will welcome you, Ambassador. We have much to learn from each other." After the ceremony, Xorlak requested permission to address the United Nations on Earth. 1 month later, they stood before representatives of all Earth nations, their image broadcast to billions of humans worldwide. "People of Earth," Xorlak began, their voice translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. "We thought we knew what made species special, their technology, their longevity, their reach across stars. We were wrong." Xorlak's skin rippled with emotion. "Humanity's greatest gift is your beautiful unpredictability. You solve problems not because you're smarter, but because you approach them differently. In a universe where most species think alike, you think in ways nobody else can imagine. And that, we've learned, is the most valuable trait of all." The speech was met with thunderous applause. In the days that followed, countries around the world celebrated the new galactic relationship. Scientists eagerly began studying alien technology. Artists created works inspired by their new knowledge of the universe. Children played games based on the different alien species. As the human delegation prepared to return to their normal lives, they gathered for one final dinner together. They had become close during their adventure, forming bonds that would last a lifetime. "So what happens now?" Jack asked, looking around the table at his friends. "Now the real work begins," Lisa replied. "Cultural exchange, technological adaptation, diplomatic relations. There's so much to do." Commander Susan Garcia, who had replaced Ryan as Earth's official representative, smiled as she raised her glass in a toast. "They still don't get it, do they?" she whispered to her colleagues. "Get what?" Alan asked. "It's not that we're special," Susan explained. "It's that every one of us is different. That's the real secret they weren't prepared for." She looked around the table, at Jack the NASA technician, Lisa the linguist, Samantha the engineer, Daniel the astronaut, Elizabeth the pilot, Alan the literature professor, Nicole the music teacher, Frank the mechanical engineer, and all the others who had contributed their unique perspectives. "Humanity isn't special because we're all the same," Susan continued. "We're special because we're all different from each other. And that diversity of thought is something the galaxy has never seen before." As they raised their glasses, Earth rotated below them, billions of humans going about their lives, each one thinking, creating, and solving problems in their own unique way. The stars above no longer seemed distant and unreachable. They were now the beginning of humanity's greatest adventure.